Welcome back to part 14 of setting up the Power Platform Centre of Excellence. In this video, we're going to set about setting up a couple of Power BI dashboards that are provided as part of the kit. So the first thing we're going to want to do is open Power BI Desktop. We're authenticated with the relevant account. We've gone into our COE starter kit and we've basically selected a PBIT file, so a Power BI template file that begins with production underscore COE dashboard underscore the month and year, which could differ depending on the version of the kit you've got. And then secondly, we'll also use the one that starts with the name Power Platform Governance .pbit file. So we've selected we've come into Power BI Desktop, we've gone to File, we've gone to Open Report, we've gone into our COE starter kit. Ensure that you're searching for files of the right type, because if initially it's just looking for PBIX, you may not see anything. So ensure that you've either got all or PBIT selected for the file type. Select the production underscore COE dashboard PBIT file, and then that will bring you to this point. So to obtain the org URL that it's asking for, if we come into the Power Platform Admin Center, which you can get to by going to aka.ms/ppack, or when you're in, say, powerapps.microsoft.com, you can click the gear icon and click on Admin Center and get to it that way also, or you can just go for the full URL as seen above. So once we've come into here, we've clicked on environments in the left-hand navigation, we've selected our Centre of Excellence environment, and we're going to copy our org URL. Just to call out, if you were doing this as a Dataverse for Teams, you would want to exclude the HTTPS, but as we're doing this in a full production Dataverse environment, you want to include the HTTPS. So coming back on over into here, we're now going to click load. And providing everything is okay with that URL and the account is sufficient, it may ask you to authenticate if this is the first time. We'll let this populate the various tables. So it is going to ask me to sign in, so I'll just do that. And just whilst it does all of this stuff, actually, I'm just going to pause the video. It's worth calling out that before you'll see data in the dashboard, the core component solution sync flows will need to have completed their run. So they should have run some time ago. But basically, if you see no data coming through into your dashboards, one of the first troubleshooting steps would be to ensure that the tables are being populated by way of the relevant flows. And equally, before you see data about app usage, you must have installed the audit log solution to basically populate the audit log information into a Dataverse table that the report uses. What you'll essentially find is that once you've opened up a Power BI template file, you're essentially just using that as a starter, and ultimately you'll come back to the more familiar PBIX file. So what we want to now do is publish this into the Power BI service. So it'll want you to save it. It'll be saving it as a PBIX. So I'll just call this COE main dashboard. Save it. It'll just ask you to save a local copy. Once it has those changes saved somewhere, it'll then let us publish. For us, we're just going to use the default My Workspace. I suppose technically it would be better off having its own workspace, which the more I think about it, I think I will actually do. So let's come on over to app.powerbi.com. And then once this is loaded, let's click on Workspaces. Let's click on Create Workspace. And let's call this Center of Excellence, save. And now if we come back into Power BI Desktop, we're probably going to have to click Publish again. Select Centre of Excellence. And then this will be making this available in the actual cloud Power BI service, which is where we would normally want to consume it from and not within Power BI Desktop itself. So now that's up there. Another thing we would want to do is if we come into the data set and data flows for the dashboard, we'll want to ensure that this is being refreshed on a daily basis. So you can see here at the moment, it's got not applicable under next refresh. So we're just going to come in, go to settings. You may, before you can actually populate these settings, you may have to reconfirm the credentials. So I'm just going to click Edit Credentials, leave that as is. Just going to select our account that we're already signed in with. And once this is signed in, we should now be able to toggle on a refresh. And here we're just going to leave it at a daily and the defaults. And then we'll click Apply. If we now come back on over, we can see that we do have a next refresh scheduled. Equally, you can always manually initiate a refresh by clicking on this icon also. This is optional, but next we're going to put in some embedded Power Apps into this Power BI dashboard. As the advantage of doing this is that if you see something, you can react to it within the report itself. So this report does seem to differ from what I was expecting, maybe a newer version, but we'll go ahead as if we can do this. So we're on the app details page, although this was taking up the full screen. I believe once upon a time the apps used to be actually already embedded and you needed to configure them, but we'll go through it. So in the visuals section, we're going to click Power Apps for Power BI. And I want to put 2 in here, so I'm just going to resize it. I mean, admittedly, we probably want to add this onto a different page or find the page. So the flow, if it was to do with flows, have it on the flow page. And if it was to do with apps, have the app one on the app page sort of thing. So what we're first off going to do is we need to select some data fields that we would interact with this Power Apps visual. So with the visual selected, on the right hand side under app, we're going to find admin app ID. And again, with that same visual selected, we're going to expand environment and we're going to select environment ID. And as you can imagine, these will be good key references to relate to data that we see in the Power App. So environment ID selected. Next, because we do get these apps made available as part of the Centre of Excellence kit, we're going to click on Choose App. We're going to want to ensure that we toggle to the correct environment, so the Centre of Excellence one. And then the first app that we're looking for is the one that is called Admin Access to this app, which is this one here. And then we'll click Add. So here it says save your app in Power App Studio to finalize your data connection. So I'm just going to sort this out because I believe it's opened up on a different screen. So we've clicked on the Go to Power Apps link. I've clicked on the Allow for the consent. And now I'm just going to come over to where it's navigating me to. We'll just close this banner here. Come back on over. You can see here we have Power BI integration, which is basically a telltale sign that we've embedded a Power App within Power BI report. So all I'm going to do at this stage is I'm just going to save and publish. Really, this should be reflecting the apps that we select, and then we can actually make an action through the embedded Canvas Power Apps. However, we'll carry on. Like I say, I want to come back and actually make use of these things, but we'll carry on regardless. So again, we're going to do a similar thing, but this time we'll use the flow one. So we're going to again choose the Power Apps visual, and except this time we're going to select flow ID, and I'm still, I believe, going to select environment ID. Again, we'll do choose app, ensure that we've got our Center of Excellence environment selected, and this time we'll be doing admin. If I can find it, access this flow, and then click add, go to Power App Studio. Okay, we'll click allow. In the browser, it's gone to launch the app. Just close this one down. In fact, just double checking the documentation, I believe I've told you the wrong ones to select. So I'm just going to deselect with the visual selected. Just have to make sure you've got it. There we go. So under environment, I'm going to deselect that one. And under flow, I'm going to select admin flow environment. And then if we come back in our browser, I'm just going to do skip, but we'll just do a similar thing for now. We'll just save and publish it. So again, we should be able to click through flows and be able to action them by way of the embedded app, but I'm going to need to troubleshoot this, and we'll take a look at this when we come around to actually making use of it. So the final thing I'm going to do is we're just going to make use of the final dashboard that's available as part of the starter kit, the governance one. But before I do that, we're just going to save and republish the changes that we've made to the Power BI cloud service. So it's going to detect that we've already got a report, and we're just going to say replace. So with going to File, Open, Browse Reports again, we're ensuring that we're searching for PBIT files. We're coming to our COE starter kit, and we're going to select the one that's named Power Platform Governance. Again, it's going to want us to specify the org URL, which we can obtain here again. Paste that in and click load. Okay, well, this is embarrassing. It's just dawned on me that the initial dashboard that looked different, and now I know why, this is the first main one that you would want, with the governance one being optional. And that probably explains the issue we encountered with it not looking as expected for the embedded apps. So if you come here on app detail, you'll actually see that it does have it available on here to configure. So I'm just going to quickly do that now just to show you, but this is the one we should have done initially. Okay, so what we did in completely the wrong report, we've now done it in the correct places where we've got cloud, and you'll know it's the right place because you'll already have the placeholder for the app, and you basically remove the instant that exists there, add the Power Apps visual, select the two fields that we discussed, and now we can publish this to the Power BI cloud service. And you'll notice that those pages are actually hidden because they'll be made use of when you come to actually look at the details of a Cloudflow or an app. So I'm just going to save this one before it'll let us publish it. And then finally, we'll select Center of Excellence. Let that do its thing.